Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Tallgrude.
Who? What's up, guys? I'm here. No headphones today. It's broken again. So, just enjoy the ambient noise, and I apologize if it gets loud. Yeah.
Maddie.
Yeah, I've got nothing. Hello? I never wear headphones, so...
It's that time of the season. Nobody's got anything to say. Look, we're a day late. Apologies for that. That's AJ's fault as well. He slept in.
It's true. Actually, it's all Madison's fault because he has to go Tuesday. And if we would have went Monday, I would have
Which
remembered
was
my alarm.
really funny, because my boss's boss flew in from New York on Sunday night for a meeting on Monday morning. The guy canceled at 1:30 in the morning. Not funny for me, because I have some explaining to do to my boss's boss, but, you know.
That's the way to do it, man. Cancel at 1:30 a.m., then it's really obvious he's been on a big piss up.
No, he said he was sick, which, you know, it happens.
Yeah, same thing.
Like, talk.
Preempting, I think. Yeah, boys, look, here we go. End of the season is near. We've got a couple of games to talk about, a very boring one to recap and one to preview. Before we dive into this week's episode, as always, I'd like to say thank you to our Substack founding members, Des Windsor McGlynn, Ali Tareen, Tito, Mac Morris, Pullman, Joey Gawler, Kemin, MJ, Mats, Luke Villano, Raul Escobar, Rajat, Carlo Fassi, and NASA is the latest addition to the list. So thank you very much to all of you for subscribing. And yeah, let's grow that list to 15, maybe 20 by the start of next season. That would be really good. Really appreciate your generosity and support on that front. Over on the Substack, in the last week, we've had some interesting stuff because it would be fair to say it's an explosive time surrounding Milan at the moment. The most recent article was a recap on the stadium situation because the news has come to light that the programme agreement is in place, so we can now start to take those formal steps towards putting spades in the ground and finally getting going. So that's a recap of everything that you need to know. The most recent bonus podcast we did was each of us pitching who we think should be the next head coach of Milan. That was at the time before some rumours came out and before a petition and stuff that we're going to talk about in this episode. But yeah, that's our honest selections for who we think should take over from Pioli. The day before that, Isaac did a great deep dive into how we got to this point with Stefano Pioli and where the club should move from here. And there was, of course, newsletter, as there is every week, kind of recapping the fact that we've fallen apart in a difficult moment of the season, and you get a news bulletin with that. So if you can't keep up with everything that goes out every day, that's a good way to get the things that matter most.
Help them out real quick. We actually are building a stadium.
We are.
Only took 5 years to get approval.
Yeah, that's if the program agreement goes to plan, but it is certainly the most important step. It's meant to take, I think, 18 months.
Yeah,
so,
until we drop that first brick into the ground, we're not building anything. I'm going to be a pessimist on that one until it gets done. I remember Berlusconi talking about that in 2014, 2015? We were supposed to have a new stadium, and then 10 years later, we don't. So until it's here.
Listen, new stadiums aren't all that great. It's putting Everton into administration, so
it's gonna be nice.
There's a lot of things going on there.
There's a good example though as well, because Goodison is probably my favourite stadium in the country, and they're just leaving it behind for this swanky, modern, state-of-the-art home. It's great. It's going to push the club forward when everything gets up and running, but until then, it's like a lot of short-term pain. So, yeah, we're going to cross that bridge, potentially 2028 or 2029 is when we're looking to inaugurate the stadium. So it's still a lengthy process. It's like 4 years until we're looking to move into it. But that article tells you everything that you need to know, so go check it out. Substack, you can try a week for free. Okay, Juventus away from home on Saturday evening. That's it. Let's move on. Nothing to talk about with this game at all. This is kind of the game that I feared that it would be, to be honest. The narrative going into it, or rather the situation with regards to the table, was pretty obvious. We 5 points ahead of them in the standings, in second, they're in third. Both teams in pretty bad form and lacking in confidence. For both teams, it felt like stuff that is happening on the field is secondary to what's going on off the field. We're trying to plan for the future, protests surrounding coach and all that shit. So it did feel like this could be a real damp squib, and like it wasn't a good advert for Serie A. If it's a Saturday evening and you're a casual watcher of football and you think, oh, Juventus Milan, that must be a good game. They're both up there in the table. Fuck. It was not. It was not good. AJ wanted to refresh his memory by watching the 8-minute, which are usually like 10-minute plus videos of the extended highlights of this game. And how much of it was actual football?
The first minute 30 was showing the lineups and the kids walking out. There was no game. So and then it just looked like a volleyball match. It was just the ball bouncing back and forth. There wasn't a whole lot going on. I think the first shot, not even on target, but just the first shot was like 15 minutes in. So I couldn't even finish those, to be honest with you. You mentioned it's a bad advert for Serie A, and I remember the first Milan Juventus game this season was I think they did a big watch party in Boston for it, and it was also dog shit, and we said the exact same thing. And then this one, they did a watch party in Baltimore, which I went to, and it was also dog shit. And
you went to the watch party?
I was at the watch party, and thank God for that, because otherwise, even being there, I felt like I wasted 2 hours of my life more.
Wait, was this through CBS?
Yeah, it was Liga Serie A put it together, and it was with Paramount. Yeah, so the people.
I don't know why I didn't know that, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I thought you were at something for work.
No, nope. But yeah, I mean,
did you at least get hammered, or
not hammered because I had to drive home? But I had a few Aperol Spritz, had a Negroni. Yeah, had some margarita flatbread. I mean, it was whatever. It was a very average day. I got this little Serie A award, which I shouldn't be showing because it definitely wasn't given to me. It was taken.
on the topic of Juventus, and stealing titles,
right?
And Negronis with some jabronis, eh?
Yeah, exactly. That was it. I got nothing else. No analysis.
Yeah, before talking about the game itself, I realise I've jumped the gun a little bit here, but there was something from Pioli's press conference that really pissed people off, and I think showed perhaps the fact that mentally he's cracking. If we didn't know that he was there already, he gave some pretty spiky answers in his pre-match press conference. One of them was in response to the question, do you think the team gave everything this year? His response was, we've given everything, yes, but we have not always managed to put our best qualities on the field. Instead of being the strongest team in the league for 4 years and have only won 2 Scudetti, we have never been the strongest team in the league. We tried to fight for the top position. Sometimes we succeeded, sometimes less. We gave everything mentally, but we weren't always able to raise our level of play. What do you think about that?
Inter have not been the strongest team for 4 years. If anyone says it was another team besides Napoli last season, they're wrong. Let's be honest. And Inter lost 12 games. They weren't the strongest team last year. The other 3 years, yeah, probably. The 2 they win and the 1 we won. I mean, you can make that argument, but this isn't a moment to pat yourself on the back and say, we stopped the strongest team 1 year out of 4. Come on, what are you trying to do? I know he's got to save a little face here because he knows his job's done. And it's got to be really hard for him to coach these remaining games when every day he wakes up and sees who his replacement is going to be, So I do as a human feel for him a bit, and I understand where he's going to be defensive for the rest of the season. That's just how it is,
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to save his job, his career. Everyone should have a little bit of sympathy for that outside of the unemployed on Twitter, which
we'll take our sloppy seconds at school.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is he's going to get a job right after this anyway, so it's not that big of a deal, but it'll never be as good.
He's essentially, in these interviews and these conferences, he's updating his resume. He's pitching himself to whoever comes in for him, really. Yeah. And as you say, he's going to be defensive as a result. I agree with exactly what you say. You can't argue that Napoli... Look, Inter have been the strongest team this season. I also think that they were the strongest when they won their 19th, the year before we won ours. But there's hypocrisy to it all, because Pioli said after we won the Scudetto that we deserved it. It was the product of hard work, and that all the players deserved it because of the collective spirit. Now, I think you can deserve to win the title, but also not be the strongest team. I do think those two things can exist. Like, the Champions League winner isn't necessarily the best team in Europe. They're the team that gets hot at the right time. But I also think we did fully deserve that title that we won, because we held our nerve when Inter flapped it. Like, we won 6 in a row to end the season. We won 9 of our last 11. That is title-winning form when it matters.
Yeah, I agree. I also do recognize that Inter dropped the ball on their game in hand because of a backup goalkeeper. So there's always a bit of luck that goes into every season. And actually, in hindsight, you could argue that Napoli was just the most consistent team last season, because, I mean, we beat them multiple times over. A 4-0, we thrashed them. So, I mean, you could say we were a better team last season, but we couldn't keep our shit together all year, which is also true. I mean, there's a lot of things to it. I do think we have the players to compete every year. I don't think the Inter squad is that much better than the Milan squad. I don't think the Napoli squad is better than the Milan squad. I just think, the coaching does limit you. Depending on who you have on the bench, it'll limit you. And I also think there was just a lot of other things that came into play. We've had an injury crisis every season. We still haven't had a fully fit team. Even right now, when we were, a day away from Pobega returning and having everyone back, a week later, we're down 8 players. Now we're going to miss Mignon for the rest of the season. The clue's still out. Like, there's always something going on with this team. So there's just a lot of factors. It's hard to say, like, empirically, this is the best team, hands down, always. Now, you could look at the table and say no one was beating Inter this season and they deserved it, and that's true. They also have beaten us 6 times in a row, so it's really hard to say, like, we're a better team than them. But I think in a one-off, anything could happen. On paper, the teams aren't that far apart.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, just because they killed the league. I mean, obviously that makes them the best team. But, like, if you look at the NFL, right, the best team on paper does not always win the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Lions this year were great, right? They were clicking, like, unbelievably well. Next year, they may not be. Yeah. And people will be like, oh, they fucking suck. Fire the coach. Like, no, like, sometimes you just don't click.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's Milan's issue. I think there's a mentality issue, a leadership issue.
I agree with you. And
but
I think you could also
think that Inter have been the most consistently clicking team for the past 4 years.
And that is who wins the title most of the time, is the most consistent, right? Especially over a 38-game season. And you could have bad days, and you could also have multiple consecutive bad days. Like, it's very possible to have a bad month at the office, and in the case of Milan, that was last January, where we lost like 6 games or whatever it may be. So, I mean, shit happens. It is what it is, but hopefully we come back better and the coach prevents those situations next year. Because one thing Pioli has consistently not done is avoid a month or 2 month drop in form every season.
Yes, and I find the NFL comparison that Maddie made interesting, because, like, in American sports, with the way it works, you finish near the bottom, you draft high. Like, there's meant to be parity over the course of multiple seasons, and I quite like that system. But if you look at, for example, this season, Inter are going to win the title by probably over 20 points, although it might remain as it is if we win out, which I suppose we should do. If you look at the table last season, Napoli obviously won the league with 90 points, and they finished 18 ahead of Inter. So there has been around about a 40-point swing from one season to the next. And I think that Syria, more so than La Liga and the Premier League, does have the capacity to swing very quickly based on a good summer, and maybe other teams having a bad summer as well, which, we've spoken before about how important continuity is. Inter have had that, and I think that they're reaping the rewards for it. and also for having an experienced squad. But yeah, I just thought that was a pretty brave, I say brave, bold, damning admission from Pioli, sort of saying to his own players, "You were never the best." I don't think that's the thing that you should say.
Yeah,
before
I think it's to hype himself up. Be like, you weren't the best, but I made you the best. Sort of.
And then we come to the question of why is he still here then if he's going to say shit like that, and and then also
because
just
the fans have an input on who the coach is going to be.
We're coming on to that. We're coming on to that, Maddie. Before the game as well, he got asked by a DAZN reporter. DAZN?
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 The Zone?
The Zone.
Like the Zone, but
we don't have that over here.
I just read it as DAZN. I didn't even know it said anything.
It doesn't really spell it. I wonder what
I'm illiterate. Sorry, guys.
What does it stand for?
The Zone. It's just like the Zone for sports.
Oh, right. I see. We only have it over here
AJ
for on-demand.
It didn't work 3 times.
I guess not. It's early. No, it's not even early for him. He just doesn't know.
No, I don't know. It's a new thing over here. Like I'm not familiar with it. We've got it for on-demand boxing now, but nothing else really.
They do mostly a lot of that.
Yeah. Anyway, got asked by a reporter just before kickoff when you do that thing before they go out for the warm-ups, does a little interview in the tunnel bit. And the first question was, "What do you expect from your Milan today?" And he said, "What do you want me to expect? That we play best we can and we win the match because we have the quality and ability." Just a really it's not that bad a question. Why are you going back at him like, "Well, what do you want me to expect?" That's just strange behaviour. He's lost it basically. Like he knows exactly. He's cracking. He's cracking like Humpty Dumpty. Anyway, the game.
This was supposed to be a review.
4 of the back 5 were not who would normally start for us. I think we ought to preface the entire result by saying that. Maignan got injured again in the warm-ups. More to come on him. So Sportiello in goal. Florenzi at left back. Musa at right back. Gabbia, Chow as the centre-back pairing. The unlikely heroes of the game, from our point of view, were Sportiello and Chow. Both of them were very good. So it doesn't mean anything really, but I guess if we take a crumb of comfort, it's that Chow looked back to sort of the version that we saw of him when he was in a back 3. We did defend with a bit more caution, and I think that showed in the fact that we had absolutely nothing at the other end. Mm-hmm. But Sportiello made some good saves to once again prove that he's a reliable backup for us heading into next season, if he can stay fit. Chow had that block on the line from the Rabiot shot, and generally I thought Gabbia did pretty well against Vlahovic before he came off. Just not a good game, like not a good performance from either team, really. I think Juve, as the XG perhaps shows, I think they had quite a higher XG than us, but it was still around 1 to 0.1. That probably reflects that they had the better of the chances, but at no point did I ever feel that we were going to lose the game.
Yeah, well, they had the 1 goal line clearance, like you said, and that's probably what upped their XG. Without that, it was probably equal at 0.2 or 0.1, whatever it was. It makes me wonder because our defense is where everything changed, like you said. 4 to the 5 back line were different. So why is it that our attack couldn't do anything? The attack that was consistently the same, that's scored all these goals, has us a second attack in Serie A. Why couldn't they get a shot on target this entire game? Is it Juventus defense that good? It certainly doesn't look to be. I mean, if it was, they'd probably be above us in the table. So I don't really know what the issue was with this one, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. At least the makeshift defense was able to defend.
I think there was we got some signs from the game because this was our last. I don't want to say a high level test, because Juve is struggling. It was 2 wounded animals. Basically in this, it was 2 teams that are so low on confidence where, as said before starting the recap, it's like 2 teams where they want to hit fast forward until the end of the season. Juve can still win a trophy, they can still win the Coppa Italia, and they're probably going to lean into that quite a bit, which would look more embarrassing on our part if we're the only one of the top 3 who doesn't emerge with any silverware. But they're either sacking Allegri or they're not. They've got a big job to do to rebuild that squad. They're probably going to lose a couple of key players like Vlahovic and Bremer. The stuff for Juve, as with us, is more about off-field than on-field. And I think that showed in the performances of both teams. But yeah, it was the attack that let us down big time. Giroud was poor. When he comes up against a back three, he really tends to struggle. Bremer pocketed him. It happens each time, it seems. Although he did score once away at Juve to win us the game. Can't remember, season before last, I think. Or maybe it was last season.
I think
Leao wasn't at it either. He didn't really get into the game. He was still the one who we tried to get the ball to, and I felt sorry for him because, again, he was double-teamed. Like, he did find it difficult to find any joy. Then, Loftus-Cheek and Pulisic mapped out the game.
I think having this game, missing so many players after losing to Inter and them winning the title, is really hard to bounce back.
Yeah,
especially when your manager is mentally gone.
Yeah,
both teams kind of were just playing for a draw. A draw was all we needed to secure Champions League for next season. So job done there for us. And for Juventus,
we hit our season's goal.
Exactly. For Juventus, they just need a draw against Roma next week to secure Champions League now. They already have the head-to-head. They're 6 points clear of them. That's the only team who could jump them. So if they get any result against them next week, they're good to go. So I think this game was about securing a draw, you know?
Yeah.
It was best case scenario for both teams to get a draw in this game. So now, do I think they were like, hey, guys, let's just take it easy and draw? Obviously not. Each team goes out to win. But I think in the back of their mind, it was more about don't risk anything. You know, it was more like, because if you push forward for a goal and then you miss, you get countered, you concede, now you're fucked. But if you just play it safe, defend, and you get the draw, okay, cool. Granted, we didn't know all we needed was a draw until later in the day. I think it was actually Sunday when we secured it, when Atalanta drew or something like that. I can't remember, but I mean, it's still in the back of their mind, right? Is like, okay, this is a possible scenario. Let's play towards that. And if that is the season goal, as we're now pretending it was, even though we all know it wasn't at the beginning of the season, then you do what you can to achieve that, and that's what they did.
Yeah, I think it wasn't even like about securing top four. I think it was knowing that if we keep a 5-point gap to Juve by not losing the game, then we're fine. We're in good shape. Like, we've got all winnable games from now until the end of the season. So that's our most difficult test out of the way. As it turns out, the draw was enough to secure top four, but let's face it was never really in doubt. We would have got one more point in our last few games. I think it was about keeping that gap to Juve. We did that. That's why they pushed a bit more towards the end and we played in our shell. I mean, the lack of changes pissed me off, I'll be honest. It was clearly not working, and yet we didn't make an attacking change until inside the final 20 minutes, which was Okafor coming on for Giroud. I quite liked that change. I thought that was that's what we should have started with. We know Giroud is not going to be our player next season, so why don't you propose a different solution? Jovic didn't make the trip because he suffered a bit of muscle fatigue, and so it made it obvious who to start, in my opinion, there.
Yeah.
And
it made it obvious what the substitution was going to be as well.
Yeah.
And the fact it came still 70 minutes in, as it does every single game, again, shows a lack of growth on Pioli's part. It shows predictability. I mean, every team we go against knows what sub we're going to make and when we're going to make it. It doesn't matter the scenario of the game. The only time he makes any changes is when we're losing by 2. And then he just takes off the entire midfield and throws on every forward. And even that's predictable. It's like, he needs to game plan more for the team we're playing and not just for the system he thinks is going to work best for us, which isn't even the best system for our players.
I'm not, I totally agree with everything there. I'm also not a big endorser of player power or anything like that. However, if I'm Chukwueze, I'm thinking about a transfer request at this point. Like, I'm not saying that he should have started the game against Juve because Pulisic has been the far more consistent performer over the course of the season. And, you know, he's somebody who can create something out of nothing, as Samu has done the last few weeks. But 83rd minute to make that change, to give him 7 minutes at the end of a game where we needed threat on the counter, that doesn't make any sense to me, like, at all. You know, he should have come on with
Speed.
Okafor, and then we had a more a quicker trident in transition.
Well, we should have started with that front four, you know, with Pulisic in the hole. Like, I don't know why we're still playing Loftus-Cheek there. As much as I like the man Loftus-Cheek, I just don't think that's the best role for him. You know, and I don't think it gets the best out of our team. And I think allowing Chukwueze to play at the same time as Leao, at the same time as Pulisic, at the same time as Okafor is best for our results. You know, I mean, yeah, we have a great attacking statistics for this season with goals scored, but it could be a lot better. A lot better. So
yeah, and then if you wanted an indication of how, I'm not going to say unseriously, but like how everything had played out in the game and everything we mentioned with the context surrounding it before, he brought on Bartazagi and Zeroli in the last 10 minutes. Now, I know we were thin in defence, so and a bit in midfield as well, to be honest. So bringing them on perhaps wasn't a massive surprise in terms of what we had available on the bench. It was good to see Zeroli out there. Obviously, he's the Primavera captain. He made his debut in the win over Sassuolo late last year. He, from the few bits we saw, he got on the ball a little bit. He was so easily pushed off it. So I think that we just see the difference in level. You know, you go from dominating a youth league game against fellow 17, 18-year-olds to this is big boy football now. And Rabiot's not exactly a physical like unit of a midfielder, and yet he found it very easy to get the ball back off him. So maybe some time in the gym for Kevin. And Bartazagi on for Musa. So we finally had a natural fullback in each fullback role because Florenzi swapped to the right. Don't have much else to say.
I didn't know either of them came on. I had no idea they played.
There you go. Zoned out by then. I don't normally have a drink while covering games, but it got to half time and the missus Jordan said, "Do you want a beer?" And I was like, "Yeah, fucking bring me a beer." Like I can't really deal with this, to be honest. Huddersfield had been effectively relegated that afternoon as well, so it was a rough couple of hours. But then we went and made pasta, so that was the highlight of the entire day.
And pasta makes everything better, to be honest.
It really does, man. And it was so much fun. So I had a good Saturday overall, despite this. Top and flop. I'm going to keep it very brief. Top for me, Chow. He's been under an awful lot of pressure, but that was a very assured performance. And the flop was Giroud.
I'll go Sportiello top because I think that's who I saw on Milan's Instagram as top. And flop, I don't know. If anyone volunteers, they could have it. So
I'm also going to go with Sportiello because that's what FootMob says, and I don't remember much from the game. And Giroud flop because if I don't have one, he's always going to number one.
Also, Leao, like we need you in games like this, man. You know, after disappointing in both legs against Roma and then getting marked out of the derby, like you can't fail in 4 big games in a row. That's not what we're paying you the most out of anyone in the squad for. So I'm going to put him forward as a flop too. Like
I will say, and I don't want to attack Pulisic here, but we got to see something from him in a big game as well. Yeah. You know, he's killed it against all the smaller and mid-table teams, and I think he had a good game against Napoli for good first half, the first leg against them. But outside of that, I could be wrong. I don't think he had any goals or assists against any of the big clubs this season. So I'd like to see a little bit more from him in the bigger games as well.
He's had a good season overall. Like there's no dispute. He's adapted really, really well. However, I think if you look into it, the last couple of months have been a tough watch. You know, he got the goal against Lecce, which was a banger. I believe he had a couple of assists, but it feels like everybody, even all the summer signings, Loftus-Cheek comes into this despite the fact he was scoring loads in January. Reinders has been a bit off. Adley's in and out the team. I just think everyone's level, as the objectives faded away, has dipped and dipped. And I think, you know, the fact that we were unable to fathom a shot on goal against Juventus was indicative of that. Genoa preview.
Yeah, good transition. Christian Banger, if you remember the first leg.
Yeah, man, I was in Chicago for this. And I remember watching it on hotel Wi-Fi. So the stream kept dropping in and out. And it dropped and we had scored. And that was to put us top of the league as it stood. And then it dropped and it came back. And I saw Olivier Giroud in net. And I thought, something strange is going on here. And then he made that amazing save, and I went mental. And then we went for pasta. So all good things end with pasta. Genoa this season have, I think it would be fair to say, secured their main objective with some comfort. They are staying in the division. It was actually mathematically confirmed with a 3-0 win against Cagliari a couple of days ago at home. That came after a run of 1 win in 7 or 8 games, looking at this. So, yeah, fair play to them. They are staying in Serie A for another season, 42 points from 34 games, currently in 12th place, scored 38 goals, let in 40. They have been either 12th or 11th since the midway point of the season. So they have just... That is consistency, yeah. And they have the former Milan striker Alberto Gilardino as the head coach, which is funny. We'll be facing a familiar foe. He's done a good job with them, and I think their team are actually quite interesting to watch. They've got Goodmanson there, who I guess will get a big move this summer. The business that they did in the summer was really smart. They signed Dragusin on a permanent from Juve, then they sold him for a huge gain in January, and they've done okay without him. The keeper Martinez they signed from Leipzig has been good. Retegui has adapted quite well, I think, considering he came from a different continent. They signed Jed Spence on loan from Spurs as part of that deal for Dragusin. Malinovsky from Marseille, De Winter from Juve on loan. Like they've done some good business, and that is what you need to do to stay in the league, which they've done pretty comfortably. That said, anything experimental for the lineup with this one? I mean, we're playing once a week now until the end of the season, so I guess you can play the starters if you want. But are we getting to that territory where you can throw Chukwueze in from minute 1 and?
Knowing Pioli, it's going to be the same thing every game. I don't foresee him changing anything up.
I think Loftus-Cheek is suspended. Let me just check that.
I know Calabria is suspended and Musa.
Great. So he will have to play a right back at right back. So it'll be Florenzi and Teo, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tomori has served his. Teo will come back having served his. And Loftus-Cheek... He's out injured, of course. Sorry, not suspended. He's out injured. He picked up a hamstring problem during that Juve game. Keep him out a couple of weeks, so he won't play. And
historically, that's when we make our changes is due to injury. So we might actually see Chukwueze with Pulisic and Leao, and it's going to be Giroud because Pioli ball. But yeah, that's it. I don't have any real preview. We'll win this game. It should be pretty simple, right?
You said that about Roma.
I've said it about a lot of things.
If you say it enough, I mean, it's going to come true, right?
Exactly.
It has come true quite a few times this season. Here's the thing: we should win. Yeah. Will we? Depends on the lineup and if Pioli makes smart decisions, and if the team has a good mentality. So no, we will not win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a season where neither team is playing for anything. We're not going anywhere. The worst we could finish is Champions League, and the best Genoa could finish is mid-table. So, it doesn't matter for anyone,
I think Genoa
will get more money for finishing second than fourth, though, right?
Yeah, and we are close to automatically qualifying for the Super Cup.
That's true. If we finish second, we'll get Super Cup. So, yay, we get to lose to Inter 4 more times. Good
fun. Or maybe not with our new gaffer. Who knows? Juve. Genoa play a 3-5-2, so that's problematic for us generally. Goodmanson and Retegui up front are playing for a big summer move, it seems. So maybe they'll try and show off at San Siro. Milan Badel still plays for them. I remember us being linked with him about 10 years ago when he was at Fiorentina. I'm with Maddie. I don't see us winning this. I don't. We have problems with Genoa as it is. We always struggle to beat them. Always. I remember in the last game before we went into lockdown under Pioli, we lost. I know it's a while back now, but we lost 2-1, and it was an awful, awful game of football. And it was our last game that we saw of Milan for weeks and weeks until they came back and started playing again post-lockdown. And then we went on that mad run. I think we draw 1-1. But I'm also not that bothered, to be honest. I think we're going to finish second.
Yeah.
It's one of them. I would, for what it's worth, you've got to start Terracciano at right back. We know what we've got. We know what we've got with Florenzi at this point. He's probably going to stay for the final year of his contract, given the amount that he's been used. We have one hole in the defence to fill. Fill it with somebody who we need to see something from ahead of next season. Play Terracciano at right back. Then you're going to play Tomori Gabbia at centre back, Teo at left back. Maignan out as well, by the way, so it'll be Sportiello again. Wouldn't hate calling up Noah Rivera, though, because he's been so good for the Primavera that, like, I'd have a look at him, but I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think
that's not happening, and it shouldn't happen. I think Noah Rivera is a really good player, but we signed Sportiello for this exact reason, and he's played once, I think, maybe twice, so just let him.
Yeah, fair point.
We'll win. I don't think it's going to be pretty, though. I think it's going to be like it's going to be like the Juve game, but we'll sneak one.
Find a way.
Yeah,
we're overdue a penalty. Like,
we've seen one pretty game in the last 5 years. It's like there are no pretty wins. Even when we were consistently winning this season, it never felt like we were in good form.
That's true. When we were on that 7-game winning run, we were all looking at it like, who did we beat?
Yeah.
Nobody really. The most impressive win was away at Fiorentina, and they are perennial big game bottlers. So, is what it is. I think, as mentioned, I can see us dropping points in this one, but I guess the ideal is like a Lecce. You field a fully attacking lineup. You take advantage of a team that are probably happy to come and try and get a point, and we just have enough. We get a goal early on to settle the nerves, whatever. But there are no nerves. Like, everybody's bored. Everybody wants the season to be done. That's another thing that factors into it. Like, the crowd aren't really up for it. The atmosphere at the Juve game was so flat because the Curva Sud didn't travel because Juventus tried to charge €80 for a ticket in the away end, which is double what they charge other clubs. So, out of principle, they didn't go. The Juventus fans, what you said, there was a Spurs jacket somewhere in there. Like, they're a tourist club as it is. So, it's always a strange atmosphere in games at the Allianz Stadium. It just all feels a bit flat. Let's move on and do some listener questions, eh?
Yeah.
This is where we get to the juicy shit, man. Right.
Do we have to do predictions, or are we just...
When we remember to put it up.
I'm just... 1-0 for us. So.
Oh, yeah, you do your prediction. 1-0 us. Maddie, you think we'll win 1-0 as well?
Yeah.
I'll go 1-1. I think Goodmanson scores. I think Goodmanson scores against us, and then we're linked with him by the papers in the next week afterwards. That's just normally the way it goes. Okay, here we go. Questions. This is where we're going to get through all of the talking points that you've got in your head. First one comes from Hassan. A key decision that should take place is the right back position. Calabria is a problem because he's a romantic symbol of the project, being a youth product and captain, but he's ineffective at right back. Would you get rid of him? And is Kalulu a solution, or maybe Di Lorenzo / a signing, I guess?
If Kalulu can stay healthy, he can be a solution, but I feel like we haven't seen him in almost like 18 months.
Does feel like that.
Yeah, I'd say yes to all the above.
It's kind of hard to do your captain like that when he grew up through the club. That's not a very Milan thing to do. So I'll be honest, I don't see it happening.
I do. I mean, we benched Romagnoli for our Scudetto winning season. When
Romagnoli was a Lazio youth product.
Roma.
Yeah.
He's a Lazio.
Regardless, he had been with us for 5-6 seasons at that point. Like, he'd been around.
We don't do that to youth products who are your captain. I don't think we've ever done it. Not meaning that we never will, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't put anything past him, to be honest. I think, we're linked with Thiago Silva. Not Silva.
Thiago Santos.
Santos, thank you.
That was our exclusive.
Correct.
We're coming for you, calciomercato.com.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we're going to bring another right back. I don't know if he'll become the starter or not, but I do think we're going to look for someone else.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree with I've been a Calabria defender because I think that the proportion of hate that he's got to the actual levels of his performances were for a while inaccurate and like disproportionate, basically. However, when the time has come, as he's entered his prime, for him to kick on and to show us more, mainly defensively, because we know he's limited going forward, he hasn't done it. Like, he hasn't developed to the ceiling that we hoped that he would. I think what we're seeing with him now is what we get, and that is a very limited one-on-one defender. And it is time, I think, to look to the future and to see if there's somebody that we can bring in. Not saying go out and spend 40 mil on like a Hakimi level signing or anything like that. It's probably worth more than that, actually. But to go out and get somebody who can at the very least compete for that starting spot. I think Santos falls into that category because he's 21 years old. He's like a Portugal youth international. He's done well in a good Lille team. He would be perfect because he could come in and Moncada could be like, this guy starts. And I don't think Calabria would kick off about being a backup, but also this notion of starters and backups with the injury record that we have and the amount of games that we play a season. I just think we need another, ideally more competent right back with a higher ceiling. And then we're fine, because Florenzi's in his mid-30s now. He gets injured a fair bit. He's got a year left on his deal. I think in an ideal world, we go into next season with Challenger and Calabria as the two. And then Florenzi is kind of an auxiliary emergency guy in and around. Thiago Santos is fine by me, gets my vote. I like Coyote as well at Fiorentina, because they spent so much money on Dodo. They have to play him, basically. So Coyote's dropped to being like a bench option. I think he's 18 or 19. He'll be an Italy international without a doubt. I won't sign Di Lorenzo. I don't think he fits our project, and he's coming off a bad season. But I can see the
fairly old, isn't he? Like 31?
Yeah, he's in his 30s as well. And I don't see him leaving. Like, he's Napoli's captain, and I believe he's Napoli's captain. Certainly was under Spalletti. But yeah, there were talks about like Di Lorenzo being the guy that Conte wanted if he came in. I'm not moved by it really, you know. Rajat, and this is where I guess we'll spend a bit of time. Is there any truth to the rumours that Milan changed their mind about Julen Lopetegui based on fans' reactions? Because that would worry me a lot more. Either you choose him and stick with him because you saw something none of us did, and or you're too fickle to run Milan.
I actually agree.
I guess by fickle he means like weak-minded rather than... Yeah.
I think that the ownership is unsure what to do, right? And so they thought they found their guy. Like, no one's chasing him. I guess some people might be like, he's not highly sought after, right? They probably used their, Moneyball technique to figure out why he's the right fit. And then when the fans gave pushback, they're like, oh shit, are we doing the right thing? No. Are we? Yes. If I'm management, you have to make up your mind. You can't let fans dictate what is happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you can never make a decision. And okay, then say, you find a good coach, fans give pushback, you don't sign him, and then you sign someone else who is a fan favorite, and it completely fails. Is it your fault or the fans' fault? It's your fault.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly where I'm at as well. Like, you are in charge. You make the decisions, not the fans. Everyone remembers Pioli out before he was announced. He was trending worldwide on Twitter. It was number one trend or some shit. Well, they signed Pioli anyways, and guess what? We won a Scudetto after X many years, however long it was, So,
and I will say, sorry for interrupting you, for as much as we don't like Pioli, he has like steadied the ship, right? He has given us the level that we can now expect, and now like we want him gone because we want more, and he's not providing that. So
exactly,
he actually was the perfect caretaker after all, basically.
His meltdown in recent weeks has kind of sullied his image, because if had he have left at the end of last season, or even in the middle of this season, or if it was just like, yeah, I've come to the end of my term, blah blah blah, we're leaving, like, I think he would be remembered very highly, and I'm sure he will in like 10 years when people look back and say, oh, he won 110 games or whatever it is. Like, people are going to look back on him fondly, and they should, because he accomplished a lot for us, but there is a natural end of a cycle, and he's definitely stayed past that. But as far as appointing a new person based on this silly petition, one, if you're even making these petitions, if you're signing this petition, go outside. Like, is life, just go outside, enjoy your day. It's not that big of a deal at the end of the day. It's a game. We watch it to escape, and don't let it control your life, says the guy who hosts a podcast about it. But like, I don't know, man. And that
I wasn't
also
going to say
remember
anything.
if they do sign Lopetegui and he fails, or I'm sorry, not Lopetegui, whoever the fans want and he fails, like the fans don't take any responsibility of it. They go, hey, okay, whatever, it didn't work. But like, that's still Redbird's money that they spent on the guy listening to fans, and then he failed. And it's like, okay, what are you doing? At least if it's your guy and it's your pick, you get to be confident in it. And like, the fans are going to blame you if he fails, but they're going to blame you no matter who fails. You know, they're going to blame you whether you win, whether you lose, whether you draw, anything. It doesn't matter. So do what you think is best. They're the guys with the Harvard degrees. We're the guys who sit on the couch and watch the game and sometimes don't even pay attention to it. Like, don't listen to us. You know, 90% of the fans don't know shit about what they're talking about, me included. I sit here and waffle for an hour every week. Like, come on, I don't run the company. They do. Let them do it. It's their job. We can have opinions. That's cool, but like, petitions are stupid, man.
It's been so strange. It's been a circus within a circus. Like I shake my head when I see stuff like the petition, because it implies something's gone very, very wrong from what I thought was a relative position of strength going into this season. Or like, there was hope, and we didn't feel like we were in the mire. There'd been a lot of change. There was still excitement. There was a lot of good spirit going into this season, and yet we've got a few games left, and we're out of every competition. And Pioli's not only gone, but the guy who is supposed to be coming in to replace him, that the management believe in, is now not coming because a fan petition has swayed them. Like, none of us saw this coming a few months ago. It is embarrassing. Yeah, it has turned us into a laughing stock. Now, I agree with you. Like, I think if you're making these petitions and if you're signing them, have a look at yourself a little bit. But I also I wouldn't take away the right for fans to protest, because I think you get into dangerous areas there. It's not just protesting about managers. I think that's something a bit different. But, if you want to protest about a particular initiative from the club that you don't like, if you want to protest about the rising ticket prices as they did, like that can have an impact, and it did. You're fighting for things that directly impact supporter experience. When it comes to a manager, the directors are paid handsomely to make the decisions, the big decisions that pertain to the running of a football club. And I think Bader put it best when he said something like, "Don't let others make decisions when their jobs are not on the line." And I think that is correct. It's kind of what you said, AJ. I do believe that that if they have put months of research and there have been multiple rounds of talks with Lopetegui, and they like what they've heard from him, and they've reached an agreement on the signings that are needed to take the team to the next level, they're in an agreement over what sounds like quite a hefty contract. It was 12 million over 3 years. It won't make him the highest paid coach in the league, but it's still an investment. And we believe in his philosophy. We believe in the fact that he can develop young players, but he's won a trophy, won the Europa League with Sevilla. He's had experiences at other top clubs. Like, I'm not making a case for him here. I'm saying what they've seen in him. And then, because of a bit of pressure from fans and a bit of kickback, they've decided to rip it all up and go back to the drawing board. That, to me, is is the actions of a weak management. And I don't know how else you could define it. The Sky report said that Cardinale is very sensitive to the environment, basically meaning like he has been told, or he's seen for himself, that this wouldn't be a popular appointment. Saki Maldini wasn't popular at the time. I think there were a few of us who argued it was logical, but you make a big decision like that, there are obviously going to be quite large vocal pockets that kick back at it.
And I think that's a big part of it. I think a lot of it is like, okay, we made this huge change that was very unpopular. I think anyone who's not thinking emotionally will look at it and be like, it was right, because statistically that was our best ever summer transfer window, was this summer, in terms of goals scored and contributions from signing players. So it was the right decision. And that should lead them to say, look, this isn't popular, but this is our decision and we have a track record that's proven. Maybe, and I just want to make it clear, I do not want Lopetegui. I don't think he's a good coach, and I don't want him in the system. But at the same time, I don't want a management without a backbone and stick by their thing, because now what kind of precedent does that send? You know, you're already seeing the account that made this No Lopetegui petition try to change the name of it to Conte in, which like, do you think all those signatures
non-seca? They changed it to like non-seca as in Fonseca. No, that's the latest one, and he's actually a very solid coach. So like, what?
In a heartbeat, like. But you're changing these people who have signed it. You're changing what they signed. You know, you can't say, do you support?
It's illegal.
I don't know. Do you support X policy? Have
a real petition?
The exact opposite.
Like
that's not how this works.
Yeah.
So it's all stupid. I just don't. I don't like it. I don't want this much fan involvement. We're not. If we are fan-run club, then there needs to be like an official polling ground for fans to go to and vote on what they want, but that's not.
It's not fucking Big Brother. We don't vote for who we like and dislike. That's not how it works. Like we can't be run by committee.
Yep.
This is an over €1 billion sports organization with people paid hundreds of thousands to millions per year to run and manage it. And you want to listen to blokes from fucking England, from America. You want to listen to blokes from all different parts of the globe who, some of whom haven't even ever attended a game. Not that that necessarily makes a difference, but I'm just saying, like, you know, you've got the Curver coming out and doing their statement, and I think they said it in a more articulate way, which some might say is surprising for them. But they came out and they don't speak for everybody, not at all. They don't speak for the majority of the fan base either. But they
also released some pretty questionable things.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, that was terrible, obviously, but it was one guy being a knobhead, you know, that it happens. But the actual Curver statement, it spoke for me in the sense that, you know, we expect now to see a leap in ambition. The reports that have come out suggest that it's not going to be that. So this is what we expect. And I did appreciate that, because they didn't personally attack anybody. They didn't personally go after the Lopetegui thing. They didn't name him at all. It was more so just, we're outlining what we expect now from this management.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're all at.
I think everyone anticipates and expects a jump in quality, a jump in performance, results, finishes, everything. They want trophies. You know, we've watched Inter win 2 trophies a season for 4 or 5 years now, and they've been in a financial hellhole. And we have green plus signs in our bank balance, but we're not winning anything. It doesn't do anything for us, especially when you think it's not the fans' money. So if it's not our money, why are we making decisions? You know, but at the same time, I don't know if Lopetegui is going to be that guy or not. To me, I say no, but I don't have the contact with him. I haven't seen his game plan. I don't have the understanding of the sport at the level that these guys do, that most fans think they have. They don't. Talk to one guy who's an actual licensed, experienced coach, and you're going to learn you don't understand the game like you think you do. That's just the reality of it. So maybe
like AJ
can take us to the next level.
We got taught this thing when I was doing economics, about the difference between perfect and imperfect information. So like we are operating under the assumption that the management, so for the avoidance of doubt, that includes Ferlani, Ibrahimovic, Moncada, D'Ottavio, and Cardinale, who has the final decision-making power. They have all the information available to them, you know, not just in terms of like what Lopetegui's like as a coach and what he said in his interviews, but also what we can pitch to him, the salary we can offer him, the summer budget we can offer him, the signings that he might have asked for, can we bring them in or not? Like they know everything that they need to know about whether this is a good appointment or not. Fans, we form our opinions with imperfect information. We don't know everything that goes on. Like we in fact know probably around about 1 to 10% of what actually, and yet the ability for that to outweigh everything else, it doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence moving forward. Now, it might be, and I hope that this is the case, it might be that they've pulled back on it because they realize there's a better man out there for the job. That's the ideal, rather than he's not the right guy. It's that there is someone better that we now think we can get.
If they're going for Conte now, and I'm just throwing that name out there as an example, if they're going for Conte and it's, well, we wanted him from the beginning, but we knew we couldn't afford him, we couldn't get his signings, and then all of a sudden Conte had a change of heart and said, okay, I'll take the money you're offering, and now they're changing, that's different. But they're not going to say that publicly, that it was like, oh, well, we couldn't afford him, but now he's willing to take a pay cut and we're going to go for him. You can't say that publicly. But again, like you said, perfect versus imperfect information. And yeah, I mean, it's like the difference of a random guy trading a stock versus a congressman who knows everything that's going to happen. And, like, there's a big deal. That's why insider trading is illegal, but it still happens.
Yeah.
Anyways. Next question.
Yeah, go.
Yeah. We don't know who it's going to be. That's the latest on it. Keep checking the Substack. We'll release any bits of information we have there. There's talks of it being Motta. There's talks of it potentially being Conchecao, Fonseca. It's gone back to the drawing board, basically. Fahid asks, Bologna and Atalanta have a good sporting director. Is it possible that Milan hire either one of them? Or is it a possibility to bring back Paolo Maldini for the sake of Milan's project?
I'd say no to both. That's not happening.
I don't think it's happening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the reason I
wouldn't backtrack to Maldini, no reason to do that.
Out of principle, which is funny talking about principles when. Anyway, the reason that I brought this question up, I think the answer is no to both. I don't think we will hire somebody else, and I don't think that we will bring back Maldini at all. But I want to put forward this notion because of all the reports that have come out about sort of internal disagreements on who is the right candidate. We don't know if they're true or not, but it wouldn't surprise me if a room filled with blokes who know a lot about the sport have different thoughts. That's us sometimes. Can too many cooks spoil the broth? Is there too many figures in and around making decisions at the moment?
Yeah, I do. I genuinely think there are. And I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I think they're all very good at what they're doing. But I do think when you get, 4 people making one decision, you're going to have disagreements. You're going to, in perfect world, it sounds great because you're getting everyone's ideas, all of the input, and you come to this collective agreement. But at the same time, someone could hold out and be stubborn, and then you miss out on something that you all wanted. And I don't know. I think there's too many people. Zlatan's also inexperienced at this. He has no background as a director,
Mm-hmm.
So that could harm as well if he gets as an equal say. We don't know what that structure is like, if someone gets more votes than another, or if they have to vote, or if one person gets to make the final decision. We don't know how that works. So yeah, it can definitely spoil the stew, as you said.
And they need to bringing in this Karofsky guy as well. Apparently he's going to be more on the under-23 team side of things, but it's another figure who has previously been a sporting director. So it's difficult at the moment. I think you have to have a CEO, legally to register your club. You have to have a CEO, and they have to have certain qualifications to be a CEO. So it'll be Furlani probably going into next season. Now the Comoli idea's faded. Zlatan's role is senior advisor. It's vague, but Jerry basically confirmed that he's got quite a lot of decision-making power. You require to have a technical director. That's why we promoted Moncada from previous role of chief scout. Dottavio, I don't know how much he does on a day-to-day basis, but apparently he now goes out on scouting missions and whatnot. So maybe it might be that if you drew up a Venn diagram of what they each do, there isn't an awful lot of overlap. But at this present time, what's coming out sounds like they're in a unanimous thing. And the thing that they unanimously agreed on was Lopetegui, and they're now going back on it. So I don't know. I don't really like what's filtering out at the moment. But again, imperfect information. It might be that actually they're a very, very good working group and they agree on the vast majority of things. We don't know what's going on. But yeah, could be a media campaign, whatever. Time for one more.
Everything that we talk about, we could be like, we don't know what's going on. Imperfect versus perfect information.
I get that. Yeah,
what we do.
Right.
I know what you mean, but I also think, for example, the stuff that happens on the field, the performances, the Juventus game we can talk about that because we saw it. It happened in front of our own eyes. Like, we know that we were shit. We know they were a little bit better. It was a shit game. Like, there's things that we can process as fans, but then it's like tip of the iceberg, innit, really? We don't know what's going on underneath, and we might actually already have the guy in, and it might be somebody that's going to blow people away. We genuinely don't know, because Gazzetta said yesterday that we actually spoke with Nagelsmann, for example. Like, that hadn't been reported at all until yesterday.
Well, and let's remember that a lot of these newspapers just make shit up, right? Like,
throw enough shit at a wall.
Things. They clickbait. You look at, like, for example, the Scaroni interview the other day where he made the comment about Maldini, and everyone's like, well, why is he bringing up Maldini randomly? It's like, well, because the question was asked about Maldini, but they exclude the question from the interview to make it look like he just randomly brought it up and stir some shit. Like, that's not what went down, So
it was a strange reply. I don't know what
it was a strange reply, but
to.
It was a reply to a question. It wasn't just thrown out there, So it's you don't trust what you read in the newspapers. That's
the guys that you would normally trust, and I think even that has shifted over the last few years, especially with the change in ownership. Like Fabrizio and Di Marzio and Matteo Moretto, those guys were all hammering on the Lopetegui thing, and then until they weren't, basically, until it came out that minds change and there's actually other profiles, and Di Marzio's firing another 6 names out there. It's going to be De Zerbi, it might be, it's all over the place. Like, I don't think you can believe anything until it's done. That being said, we trust our sources, and we've always said all along that Motta's the front runner, and if that ends up being the hire that we make, then believe we will fucking parade that. Tito Mac, this season seems to have been dragging along and has been uninspiring for months now. What moves do you think would actually reignite the spark to get you and everyone excited into heading into next season? Can be transfers and or a new head coach. What would get you going into next season like, we are fucking back, baby?
A scandal against Inter this season, them relegated. That's it.
Beppe Marotta to retire.
They sell Sommer. They sell Thuram. They don't replace anyone. No, I mean, look, I think we have a good team. We need a better manager that's going to get the best out of them. We need to avoid injuries. So if our medical team gets improved, that'll help. If we could stay consistent longer, and if other teams could slip up a little bit, that's all it comes down to. Because look, we've already at this point with 4 games left have more points than we finished last season with. We're very close to what we won this good. We finished last season with 69 points.
Yeah.
69,
nice.
I don't remember what we won the Scudetto with. Was it 86, 83?
86, I think.
Okay, so we can't match that, but we could hit 83, or 82 or whatever it may be. Yeah, math. But like, our points aren't that bad. They're relatively consistent across all of our UCL qualifying seasons. The difference is the top team the last 2 years has been otherworldly in their consistency. So if other teams could just have a little bit of bad luck and we could have a little bit of good luck, I think that would do it for me, If it could just be a close title race.
Seeing a competent striker that fits our playing style come in, I don't think any manager will make me say like, hell yeah, we're back, because any manager can come in and fuck things up. Like Conte, we think would be perfect, but he may not be, right? So I think on the manager front, it's hard to know until we get actual results. I mean, you can say the same thing about players, but players would get me excited.
Yeah, I would like to see an exciting coaching appointment, but one that, like, you don't have to sacrifice the principles of the project for. And I hate using that word, the project, because people think like, oh, you're a big believer in all this Moneyball shit. I'm not. I just think that what we've done over the last few years has been quite good in terms of squad building. So I would like to see that continued rather than we go sign a load of 35-year-olds. I'd like to see someone like Amorim or Conchacao. Fonseca would be fine. Somebody to come in and build for the medium and long term around. And then signings, I think we know that we need a starting level centre back. whether that also includes a sale or whether they just come in to replace Kier, whatever. I'd like to see somebody challenge for the right back spot. I'd like to see a number 6. We'd all like to see a defensive midfielder. And like to see a centre forward who guarantees 20 plus goals. And I don't want us to spend 60 million on Joshua Zirkzee, to be honest. I'd rather go for somebody who is a bit more of a guarantee in that sense. Who might the names be? Look, not paid to make that call. As we've established throughout this episode, we're not paid to make those decisions. However, I think I'd like a more experienced number 6, for example. Somebody like, I don't know, Jorginho's been mentioned, but he might now be renewing with Arsenal. But somebody who's like an experienced head who knows the pace of the league and stuff like that, rather than someone who's a bit more young and erratic, because we've got enough young midfielders in the group at the moment. Centre back, someone to complement Tomori, because Tomori is the established starter. Right back, mentioned before, striker, somebody who guarantees goals. Like those are the kind of moves. Like 4 quality targeted investments would get me excited with the right head coach. Then I'd think, we can overturn the gap. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Appreciate all of you who tune in every single week, because I know it's been a pretty bleak period. However, there's still plenty to go on with everything that's happening off the field. So, appreciate you sticking with us. We will be back with another watch along for the Genoa game on Sunday. So, Lorenzo and Stefano will be doing that. Please tune in. We're trying to build the viewership and the audience over on the watch-alongs. Appreciate everybody who gets involved in the comments section and whatnot. I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ.
Yeah. Yesterday was Lorenzo's birthday, so if you do tune in the watch-along, say that to him. And
hey, it was your birthday on Tuesday.
Exactly. Don't say happy belated. Just let them know that you knew. And you didn't.
Yeah. I've been made aware it was your birthday on Tuesday. What's it like to be 21? Thank you for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.
Gol! Ancora Teo! È una meraviglia! Il gol di Teo Hernandez da un'area all'altra! È una meraviglia! Senti il mio cuore!